a couple of guys who were brought up in a recent mailbag that we had that I want to touch on since we're talking about the defensive ends. And that's NaNa Osafo-Mensah and Ehrensberger.
Alexander Ehrensberger. Yeah.
Right, the guy from Germany, a young kid guy. Wow. And they were brought up because they've been kind of MIA. And we know that Alexander Ehrensberger, it was a project. He saw a little bit of time. NaNa has had injury issues, I believe.
Yeah, he got hurt. He got his knee rolled up on during fall camp.
Right.
Didn't really come back, cleared to play, I think, until the last couple games here. But he did get in against Syracuse. So he was able to get back and get into practice and get some action. So, but yes, he had an injury that kept him out most of this past season.
So what are you hearing about those two guys, or what do you foresee kind of as their role going into this year? Because, one of the things that's been so good about this team has been the depth in the past, right? So are they going to be able to provide that quality depth that Notre Dame has, grown accustomed to the past couple seasons?
Well, and that's going to be one of the three key questions that we're going to ask at the very end that has to get addressed. And, to me, I don't know what their role is going to be. The spring is going to determine that. They're both going to get a chance to come in and push because, look, Jason Onye doesn't show up until the fall. He's not one of the early enrollees. That's the 2021 signee from Rhode Island who, to me, is a guy to look for at the future of that position. But for the spring preview, he doesn't really fit into the mix because he's not going to be here. So if these guys want to hold him off, and then, of course, in 2022, Tyson Ford's going to show up, who's the top 100 recruit that Notre Dame got a commitment from in 2022, who is to me, one of the few defensive linemen Notre Dame has signed in recent years on the edge that are, okay, that guy's going to be grown man enough to play as a freshman, right?
Right.
So to me, this spring and this offseason is huge for NaNa Osafo-Mensah and Alexander Ehrensberger, because even if NaNa is not able to kind of crack the rotation on a regular basis, he at least needs to put himself in position where they start feeling good about his opportunities next spring when Myron Tungavaloa is gone.
Yep.
And that happens because, hey, look, this kid's really coming along. And maybe he's not ready for it now, not because he's not ready, I should say. It's more of he's just not as good as maybe these other two guys that are both older than him, because Justin Ademiyola is a year older than NaNa in eligibility-wise, and then obviously Myron's 2 years above him. So that's where you kind of get into that feeling of, hey, we like where he's at. We don't need to worry about a grad transfer. We don't need to worry, that he's going to get his shot next spring. So, but if he doesn't, if he kind of slowly progresses, then all of a sudden you start thinking he's going to his junior year in 2022.
He's going to get passed
now, right?
He's going to get passed up, and then he's going to be a forgotten guy.
Right. And then, of course, he's going to have to hold off Alexander Ehrensberger. And that's the other thing, too, about Alexander Ehrensberger. Now, you want to talk about tools. Like, he is the opposite of Justin Ademiyola, right? Like, doesn't have the football experience yet, doesn't have that natural instinct yet, at least that we haven't seen. Sure. But goodness gracious, does he have some tools. You're talking about 6'7", 250 plus, and a thin 250. I mean, he is an athletic-looking kid. Really, I mean, he got into, I think, one game last year that I only remember is South Florida, and he looked good. He had a couple quarterback pressures. He had a big hit on the quarterback, if you remember, when they were backed up on their goal line. Maybe it was against the running back, but he's athletic. He's powerful, and there's a lot of kind of fingers crossed at Notre Dame from conversations I've had over the last several months of people saying, boy, we hope this kid pans out, because this kid's got a lot of tools. He's got all the things Notre Dame looks for, right? Length, size, power, athleticism. It's just, can he put it all into a form of a guy that can play football at a high level? Sure. And that's not always a given, right? I mean, football is such an instinctive game that you can have all the physical tools in the world, and you may be able to go out and dominate against the weaker teams on the schedule. But, Notre Dame's looking to develop guys who can help beat Clemson, help beat Ohio State, help them beat Alabama. And he's got some tools that you think can maybe be exciting about that. Very, very high ceiling guy, but about as low a floor as you're going to find at the position. So I think for him, he's in a little bit of a different situation than NaNa. I think NaNa is sort of in a make or break spring. Not so much that he has to play, but he has to impress so that he doesn't get passed up. I think for Alex, it's just show progress. If at the very least he just shows progress, then I think there is an ability for him to kind of come out and be, a part of that future.
Absolutely.